Welcome to Mind Myself Conversations with E. I'm Esther, or you can call me E. I'm the founder and chief visionary for Mind Myself. And we offer so much information and content about holistic or complementary holistic and integrative health. And one of the ways we do that is through this incredible podcast that we have with conversations with incredible people. And our guest today is David Allen Tracy. And we are so thrilled to have you on our show, David, today and talking about surviving cancer twice. Wow.
Yeah.
Before we dive into that story, welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about who you are to set the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So I own three companies for one, and they kind of all three express a little bit of who I am and what I do. So everything about who I am is in health and wellness. It's so much part of my story, my background, being a two-time cancer survivor, amongst many other things. So I have a health and wellness business called Eden's Echo, and it is where I practice as a certified theta healing practitioner, a certified herbalist, and a functional genomics and nutrition coach, amongst a few other modalities. But basically, I'm looking at helping people on the body, mind, soul level is really being as healthy as they can be. On top of that, I have an extensive background in marketing and advertising and personal branding. And I used to own an international marketing agency that was in all around the world with clients all around the world. And we did all services for everybody in just about every industry you could imagine. And eventually I realized that my favorite and what I was passionate about was health and wellness. So I closed that agency down and I have a creative agency open called Tierra Creative, which is focused on providing all creative assets for industries that are in the health and wellness industries, whether that be healing modalities and alternative routes, not your traditional medical care stuff, and also products or services that are eco-friendly or friendly for human consumption. We're very specific about who we target and who we won't work with. And then personal brand coaching, I work with people to help them rise to fame. Any person who's in the health or wellness industry, who is a coach or a health coach, nutritionist, you name it, massage therapist, whatever you are, you're wanting to scale up and become known at more of a nationwide or international level beyond just your local presence. That's what I help you do through personal branding strategy, public relations, and media placements, and many other things so that you can be your best authentic self and so you can grow as a business and as an individual.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know we have some other podcasts with you, David, and one of them is specifically about how you grew up in the jungles of Panama. So if anyone is interested in hearing why and how this incredible young man is making waves around the world, you want to hear some of that story as well. Today, David, we're going to be talking about your journey twice with cancer. So how did that initially come about? How old were you? What happened? Set the stage for us, please.
So my story is very interesting and not normal. I'm just going to start by saying that. And I am someone who, Esther and I have spoken about this extensively in the past. I believe in God. Okay, I believe in God. And not everybody does, but I cannot separate the two from my experience. All right. For me, I had testicular cancer. Okay. So I had testicular cancer as a 14-year-old. I didn't know what it was. So full vulnerability, and being transparent here. When you're 14 going through puberty, you get a little lump on your testicle. You're not telling people. It is not going to happen. Too shameful. You don't know what's going on with your body anyway, and you don't know what's normal, what's not normal, right? So I kept this a secret for a long time. Probably started when I was 13, in fact. And so one day I'm laying in bed and all of a sudden I feel that God spoke to me, just boom. And it was, David, you have cancer and you're about to go through a very, very hard time, but I will sustain you through it and you will be okay. And I will grow you as a person into your calling and your destiny as a result.
Wow.
So it wasn't that God gave me the cancer. I just had it. Okay. So, and keep in mind, no one in my family on any generation above me has ever had cancer. So this is very out of the blue. I went to my dad. Oh, but you need to tell your dad now. There was an urgency about it. So I hopped out of bed immediately, told my dad, Dad, God told me I have cancer and I need to tell you now. And my dad goes, okay. And and we went to the doctor, and the doctor goes, it definitely looks like a tumor. We don't know if it's cancer though, blah, 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 blah. We have to remove it and all the things. So sure enough, biopsy, it was embryonic rhabdomyosarcoma, paratesticular. So it was a very, very aggressive form of cancer that if I had waited, they said even like 2 more weeks, it would have spread all over the body. It was a very aggressive, one of the most aggressive forms of cancer, but it was localized, but it was very aggressive. And they said the timing could not have been any later in terms of me telling. So the timing
Wow.
was like precise, right? So, um, so for one, as a young man, that definitely solidified that I believe in God. I mean, right?
Oh, you heard the voice.
I'm like,
We
whoa,
can't say the same. So
right?
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that was pretty cool. On the other hand, uh, so that was very formative on one side. On the other hand, at the time, again, this was early 2000, like 2001, I want to say, or 2000. All the information we have about cancer nowadays and alternative modalities of treatment and all the things weren't as readily available, and they still are not to the degree they need to be. I mean, there's series out there like The Truth About Cancer and many others that we could watch that have given us a lot of information. But back then, it was like chemo and radiation. That was the route you did. And so that's what we did. And I actually just spoke to my parents last weekend about this. And they're like, we're so sorry we put you through chemo. We just didn't know better. And I said, neither did I. I was 14. I mean, I don't blame them. I don't blame anyone. Okay. I'm not blaming anyone for this. I believe even the doctors and the nurses were trying their best to help. But I believe that everybody is so flipping misinformed because there are some very dark and negative agendas behind it. Okay. And so there are so many methods when it comes to cancer that are better routes for healing cancer. And there's many theories about it, but one of the many theories, and one of the ones I think is very proven, is that cancer is an inflammatory response. It's an inflammatory response that is unable to be healed because the body is fighting so hard to get rid of inflammation. It can't do it. And in order to protect itself, it forms these little tumors. And, and really, if we can reduce inflammation, we can help cure cancer. And one of the
Oh,
best ways, yeah,
so I'm going to interrupt you right there for that moment. If someone is listening and they have been diagnosed with cancer recently or in the past, and they want to go look up more information about what you just said,
yeah,
where would you recommend people start? Because I know, as you said, it's not commonly known out there, and there's still the route that is started with Western medicine. And I'm not anti Western medicine. I'm just saying there is more information out there. Where would people start?
yeah. So I would go to the Truth About Cancer on Google, and there's a whole movement called, and it's going to give you thousands of resources.
Okay.
Okay. Um, that's one of many routes. But, and again, I'm also wanting to make it clear that I'm not discriminating against anyone who is going through traditional medical routes, and nor
Right.
am I saying that I'm an expert, because I'm not. Okay, I'm a certified herbalist and I'm certified in nutrition. And so I'm not a cancer or oncology expert. But from my own research and my own experiences and what chemo did to me, and that leads into my second cancer. Okay. So the thing about cancer is it's putting in basically chemicals to fight fast growing cells. Well, that's why you lose your hair. And that's why we have all of the fast growing cells are affected in the body when you go through chemo. And so you're essentially poisoning your body of its ability to heal itself by putting in foreign agents in order to kill the cancer that in and of itself is only growing because the body is already fighting hard to sustain itself from an immune standpoint or an inflammatory response. That is my general understanding. An oncologist is welcome to come and correct me. I'm not claiming to be an expert. This is just my general understanding from what I've seen.
So
So,
when you were 14 and diagnosed and you went the chemo and radiation route, how was that for you? What happened? Tell us a
yes.
little bit about that next phase.
So I didn't do radiation, but I
Okay.
did do chemo. And I did 9 months of chemo.
Oh my gosh.
And it was devastating. It was terrible. So I was skin and bones. I looked like something you'd see off of a Holocaust documentary. I mean, it was bad. Lost all my hair, couldn't keep food down, vomited every day. Skin yellow and wrinkly looking, and just, I was not well. And it took me, I'm still struggling with the after effects of chemo to this day. I just want to add that. But for 5 years after the chemo, I still couldn't keep food down very well. When I got married, up a year before I got married, I weighed 125 pounds. So I was in my early 20s, I still weighed 125 pounds. Got married, I had been able to gain a little bit of weight. I was up to 135 pounds. My lymph nodes were chronically swollen. My face was chronically swollen. I had hormonal imbalances like crazy. If someone got sick, I was sick. My immune system was shot, right? And so I had horrible intestinal issues, so vomiting as well as everything that goes on the other end. And I was constantly getting bacterial problems and parasite issues and autoimmune. I had all kinds of autoimmune issues. So I was a very healthy kid before cancer, before chemo. And they oftentimes say it's not the cancer that kills people, it's the chemo that kills people. And that
Yes.
was certainly my experience in the cancer ward when I saw young children die because of chemo. So I don't really believe in chemotherapy. I think it's barbaric. I don't believe in it as a form of curing cancer. I think there are hundreds of other modalities and routes that can nourish the body to do what the body already knows to do. The body knows what to do with cancer. We just have to help it. So when I was 30, at this point, I had 4 children, and I'm, married and have 4 daughters, living in Hawaii. I suddenly had a horrible migraine that came on me. We were actually in Thailand doing some nonprofit work. And a horrible migraine came over me to the level where I'm literally on my knees, buckled down, and just like, oh my gosh. And I went to my room, and that migraine stayed for 6 weeks. Massage didn't help. Intense like painkillers wasn't helping. Chiropractic wasn't helping. I mean, I tried everything. None of it was working. So we, of course, did CAT scans and MRIs and blood work and panels and all the things.
All the things.
And they go, well, we don't know why you're having a migraine, but we found a mass on your liver. And with your history with cancer, we can't take that lightly. So we did a biopsy, and sure enough, hepatocellular carcinoma. So it was cancerous. And they said it's not related to the first cancer you had. It's a new type of cancer. And talking with different specialists, they said likely from the chemo.
Huh.
So, so the first cancer was unrelated to the second cancer except by chemo. Thank you, chemo. Again, I'm like, great. So this is now the difference with this time is I'm 30 years old and I have autonomy over my body and a lot more informed about all kinds of things from holistic wellness to um, mindset things and the way that we can shift our frequencies and the way we can shift our beliefs and we can shift the way our body feels. And again, this is my experience, and I'm not saying that this is going to be the experience of everyone else, just like my first experience with God was, but I really felt God spoke to me again. I remember very specifically sitting on the floor in the shower, crying,
Wow.
weeping. God, I don't want to leave my wife a widow. I don't want to leave my children without their father. I don't want to go through this again. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And I just felt God said, do not accept it. Don't accept it. okay.
What does that mean, right?
Yeah. So I shifted my mindset and I was like, I don't accept it. And I got a lot of people praying. And praying is a form of frequency. It's a frequency of, to God, but it's also positive. And my belief and my alignment was no, I do not accept this. Again, I'm not saying this is for everyone, okay? Or that this is the experience everyone's going to have, okay? But this was my experience. What happened was crazy because during one of the sessions, the time I brought some people together and I said, please pray for me. And kid you not, after 6 weeks of agony, the migraine lifted within 2 seconds. Gone, never came back. And I felt something shift in my liver. I didn't know what it was, and it shifted. Went to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota because we were already scheduled for surgery. And they did another biopsy sample from the previous, this is my mistake looking back on it, from the previous sample taken out of the Queen's Liver Center in Hawaii. And they said, it is hepatocellular carcinoma. We have to remove the left lobe of your liver. You can't stay there. And I'm like, well, maybe it was just the migraine that got healed. Right. So sure enough, did the surgery. And they were supposed to come back that day with the results. And they go, 4 days go by. They're like, we're still analyzing it. There's a couple there's something irregular. Kind of. All of a sudden, 4 doctors come into where I'm recovering from the surgery and they go, big eyes. And they're like, we don't know what to tell you because you had cancer. You literally had cancer, but now you don't. It was hepatocellular carcinoma, but now it's focal nodular hyperplasia. So it's benign. We don't, and I'm like, how can I have it? And they're like, we can't tell you. So another Mayo Clinic doctor called my dad, a friend of my dad's. This is Mayo Clinic, Minnesota. Okay. This is not
Yeah.
this is like Rochester, Minnesota. This is where people go from around. So, and I was with the best liver specialist in the country. So, all
Wow.
right. And so this doctor tells my dad, the one who was a friend of my dad, says, Richard, your son had a miracle. That's all we can say. They can't express that because they're doctors. But when they say it was cancer and now it's not, how else do you define that?
Right.
So so that was amazing. So I felt like I had this new lease on life. And kind of what that did for me was, and again, I understand that my story is unique, and I'm not equating the thing that's going to happen for everyone who prays or everyone who has belief. That's just so happens that for me that was the case. Okay. However, it really did make me realize that I was really tired of being a victim of the system. And I no longer wanted to be a victim of the system anymore. If I ever had cancer again, I would go fully, I wouldn't even have surgery. Let's just be clear. There are so many other routes that I would explore and do from a holistic standpoint. But the other thing, and I did allude to this a little bit with you, Esther, in our first conversation, I think because we hit it off right away.
Yes.
And it was how the body keeps the score from a trauma standpoint. A lot of people have asked me over the years, how do you think you got the cancer the first time? It's not hereditary. It's not in your family. Were you exposed to a lot of chemicals or were you exposed to, I'm like, no. I have seen a lot of correlation, and I'm sure many people listening can probably say this. And of course, this wouldn't be scientific or in any scientific, documents or studies or anything like that. But I think we all know that the body keeps the score. And that if we understand the element of frequencies and energetics, understand that trauma is a frequency, and that if we experience trauma in our bodies, it will manifest in some shape or form, in some form of physical ailment. It's very commonly seen and done more and more and more, which is why people go to energy healing and they do all kinds of things on the frequency level to shift things, right? So as a child, I had been sexually abused from a very young age, starting at age 4, and then numerous times up into my teenage years even. Not by one person, but by like a lot of different people. So I kept it to myself and no one knew about that until I was 19.
Hmm.
Uh, is it directly correlated to having testicular cancer? By medical standards, everyone would say no. But I've always believed that it was. And it was very interesting for me that the very area that I was the sexual reproductive organs, as it were, was the part that was under attack,
Hmm.
both from the sexual abuse as well as from the cancer, and how devastating that was for me. Internally, I battled with that. And then later on, the liver cancer being associated with the chemo, it was like the abuse kept happening. So even though the cancer was its kind of external or situation, it felt like it was deeply connected to areas of wounding and trauma I experienced as a child. And so I had tried to heal from that pain and those wounds every which way you could. And I had a lot more belief for me healing my cancer than I did healing the wound of the sexual abuse. Because when you are sexually abused or any type of abuse or any type of trauma you experience as a child, especially in that phase before age 7, between 3 and 7, that's the theta brainwave state. The children are in that theta brainwave state in those years. And it forms belief systems about yourself that also integrate into identity. And it forms pillars in your life of who you are and what you believe and self-protecting modes and many, many, many things. I just didn't think it was possible. And progressively, and I was one of these very aggressive people in seeking help. It wasn't like when I first told someone I was sexually abused at age 19, after that, I started seeking help every which way you could, right? I didn't keep it hidden after that.
And can I interrupt with a question here too? So from 4 to 19, that's a long time. And that's a long time to carry that alone.
Mhm.
Is there something, and we're not going to delve into the specifics today because we don't have time. Perhaps we do another podcast about that in particular because I think it's such an important topic. There are so many people who deal with this. But carrying that from age 4 to 19 by yourself, what advice would you give somebody now if they're experiencing that, whether they're a child or an adult, and they've been carrying this burden themselves that whole time? What would you say?
Well, for one, most children blame themselves for sexual abuse. I put myself in that situation, or it's my fault, or I did something wrong. There's a shame component to it. So we feel ashamed because we feel like we did something wrong. But the reality was there was a predator involved. And most often the predator is someone close to the family, unfortunately, or close to who's in some form of authoritarian role where they have access. Okay. So it's oftentimes very isolating because you feel this shame, right? You see, there's so much shame involved with anything sexual, or if it's done outside of your will, and anytime that you're a minor, most definitely. Um, so you feel afraid of exposure, or you feel afraid of it happening again, or you blame yourself. So you seek to control it, and the most common way that it's controlled is operating in denial or disassociation, or trying to forget about it, um, suppressing it. And there are other ways. Some people will get, I'll be the strong man or woman and no one's going to hurt me again. Other people operate in coping mechanisms like addictions or, to kind of suppress the feelings. Um, but a lot of people operate in denial, which means it's then living in that subconscious realm. And the problem was that, so what I would just say to you, if you've gone through abuse or you're currently going through abuse, to tell someone that if it's a family member, if it is a family member that's close to home, in my case, it wasn't either of my parents or my grandparents or anything like that. Okay, I just want to make that clear. I have great, great parents, but um, let's just say it had been, because I have clients that I work with whose very father was the culprit. And it's horrifying, and people go through some horrible things. So where do you go that's safe? Who do you tell, right? And then if you tell someone, they go to prison or they go to jail, or there's usually someone that you know is a trustworthy person. Could be a grandparent, could be a teacher, it could be the principal at your school, it could be, think about who you know. As scary as it is, as terrifying as it would be to actually admit that it's happening, to tell someone, take the initiative and do it if you can, because you'll save yourself many years of heartache and potentially having it recur. Uh, on one hand. On the other hand, if you've already been through the abuse, there's a 4-step approach that I take in theta healing with people, which is number one, we need to operate in awareness that it happened. We can't deny it. It happened. And we need to be aware that it was wrong that it happened or that it did happen. And then secondly, we need to make allowances for how it felt. So a lot of people go, well, they suppress it and they go, nope, I'm not going to feel the feelings. That's too painful. And so we have to have allowances for how it felt and what that was like. I was a victim of abuse. I felt afraid. I was ashamed. I enjoyed it, even whatever it is. Okay. There's so many layers to these things. You have to allow yourself to understand what you felt. But then thirdly is to come into alignment. Alignment is really coming into what is true. And trauma and triggers, traumas always have triggers, and we experience things and we're triggered by it, and it creates behaviors and self-defense mechanisms. So we have to have truth replace the trigger and the trauma. Truth is what is loving, what is true, what is kind, what is merciful, what is compassionate, what is pure, all of these things, right? So that's hard for people to understand and believe if they themselves, from a young age, feel dirty or feel soiled or feel ashamed. So to heal it requires going back to it, not on the conscious level, but on the subconscious level. Mm. And that's why I do theta healing, because it's through theta brainwave state, which is a subconscious state of mind, to go back to that and rewire the brain, the neuroplasticity of the brain, to rewire it to embrace truth where there is trauma. And that is hard to explain without experiencing it, I'll just say. But that was what was working for me, is all of the other routes and methods I was taking was very conscious level, like therapy, or this is what I need to do, or someone said, do this or don't do that. And that's all here, but it's not in my heart. It's not in my soul. It's very mental. It's very like to-do listy, right? And sure, I had moments of crying and telling people and process, certainly expressing the pain or saying what happened can help, but talk therapy can take you so far. To get to the root cause, we have to pull the thread of the tapestry that's been woven into the existence of our lives as this constant fabric of this interwovenness of our experiences of life, where this trauma in this is part of the pattern. We're so used to it being there that it feels like who we are. And to imagine that thread not being in the pattern feels like we ourselves will unravel. So to do that, it must be done in the most gentlest, most kindest, most compassionate way at the subconscious level, so that subconsciously it's no longer part of our reality. It will always be a part of our past and part of our story, but the sting of the wound, as well as the behavioral choices we make, can shift. And instead of it being now a trauma or a trigger, it is now a tool for us to heal, a tool for us to mold and change, and then ultimately to help others. But I take initiative. Don't hold on to it. I know people who are holding on to trauma into their 80s, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it, and they're suffering. We don't have to suffer as much if we take initiative. And sometimes we can't. We need someone to help us.
Absolutely. Now, David, and we've gone down this tangent, but I think it's been a very valuable and important one in the conversation around cancer. So let's bring it back to, so you had cancer at the age of 30. You had a miraculous healing. Let's continue on with that story and how that has shaped you, please.
Yeah. So now that I'm cancer free. Actually, we all have cancer cells. I have cancer cells right now, and so do you. We all do. That's a whole other thing. But it's a matter of, are they going to grow or not? Okay. So, but I don't have cancer anymore. So now that I have had cancer, I've been working on detoxification of all the chemicals out of my liver, eating healthy, supplementation, getting lots of vitamin D, being outdoors, clearing out the trauma, as I mentioned earlier, because I think that's all interconnected. And it's part of my lifestyle, not this all-consuming, like I'm afraid I'm going to get cancer. It's nothing to do with fear. It just has to do with knowing what I need to do to be healthy. It's like when we have knowledge about what to do, we know that doing anything else is like poison. And I think that had to come to my mind. I had to start thinking about it that way. I'm like, I know I'm in a hurry right now and I could eat at this drive-through window as I'm driving by because it's convenient. But I'm not going to because
Choice.
choices. And if I do have to, like I've had situations where I've had to because someone's serving me food or you know what I mean, and I don't want to be rude, so I eat it. Then I know what to do to cause my body to detoxify from that and to reduce inflammation and to cleanse as well. And ultimately, what I've learned is that the body knows what to do. The body knows what to do. Problem is that we don't always give it the right fuel. So it's kind of like when we have a vehicle. I'm not going to put gasoline where I need to put oil. I put gasoline where the gasoline goes, put oil where the oil goes. I put coolant where the coolant goes. You know, every fluid has its place. But if any one of these fluids are missing, the vehicle is going to break down. So we have to understand what the body needs to be nourished and to receive what it needs in order for the engine or the vehicle to work as a whole. And I think that's the part that's missing. Most people don't understand what a holistic diet is, nor that we're missing essential minerals and vitamins, and that 80% of our immune system is our microbiome and our gut, and we're causing all kinds of inflammation and candida growth because we're consuming processed foods and sugar and things that our body does not know how to process. So therefore, it protects us by building up fat and coating us in fat. It's a way of protecting the body. So think, if you have a lot of fat, that's your body loving you, trying to protect you. So
Interesting. A reframe on fat.
yeah.
Yeah, all the things that you're saying, what I'm hearing is that's just good advice for everybody. Like
Hmm.
we really do
Hmm.
need to pay attention, and the body is wise.
Hmm.
And how do we nourish and nurture that so that it can do what it knows how to do? In particular, if someone has just been diagnosed with cancer or is in that journey, what would you have to say to them today?
So if you have just been diagnosed with cancer and you go to your doctor, they're going to most likely recommend a route that is more invasive to your body. So it's going to be chemo, it's going to be radiation, it's going to be some other thing. I always tell people, if you can, most people, what they do is they go the traditional medical route first, right? And then they go, it's not working, and then they go to holistic. Most often with cancer, it's very rare that it's like going to spread so quickly that you don't have time. You do have time. My recommendation would be potentially go to a vetted, reliable source first in the holistic route that has a proven track record in cancer. You can find a lot of these in the truth about cancer. All right. And there are other resources as well. Because these routes will help your body through herbal, holistic routes that not all cancers, not all cancers are proven, but they have many case studies of many types of cancers where this is the case. Okay. So if you can heal your body that way first, you will have avoided potentially surgery, radiation, chemo, or some of the other routes that the traditional medicine route. Now, if these routes don't work for you, and your labs are still showing, or your scans are still showing, or your X-rays and your MRIs still showing whatever the issue is, then maybe you have to go the traditional route. But a lot of people I know a lot of people who have died from chemo, a lot. So I think it should be your last resort, if at best, in my opinion. And so get resources, find out your answers, and don't always trust the system for what it is. I don't believe that any of these doctors and nurses are ill-meaning. They're just misinformed. And so get more information and find find information from numerous sources because there's many ways to combat cancer, not just one route. So
Got it. And what about the emotional the feelings? If someone's just been diagnosed or recently, the feelings of overwhelm, or I've heard this said before, that the word cancer comes out and then everything else fades into the background and they're not even hearing anything anymore because their whole system is in fear, overwhelm, terror, crisis, whatever. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so it's great. For one, I'm not afraid of cancer anymore. I used to be, and I'm not anymore. Maybe in part because I've been there and done that and I've come out of it. But on the other hand, the more I've learned and the more I've understood and gotten knowledge, the more I understand that it's not near as scary as what it's been made out to be. And I think in many senses, a lot of ailments out there have been made to be more scary than they really need to be. Even COVID was made to be much scarier than it really needed to be. Did it kill people? It certainly did, but it was definitely blown out of proportion compared to what it was, right? So my opinion about this is if you're scared, knowledge, you know, knowledge will give you the tools you need to not be as afraid. Number two, create a support system around you. That support system can be of many things. It's not just medical. It should be psychological, spiritual, emotional. There are people that you can set in your life who can come around you. I had many people come around me when I had cancer, both times, on many fronts. So I surrounded myself with people who were speaking life into me and who were supporting us. And and um, and thirdly is if you do feel and decide to go the route of traditional medicine, which is, the chemo or the radiation, there's a lot of things that you can be doing and taking to help sustain your body physically while you're going through it so that you're not depleting your entire body. And so um, there are so many resources out there. I'll make sure that they're included in the link as well for routes to learn about how to heal cancer or be preventative of cancer or to help you as you're getting treated for cancer. But it should not, and it does not need to scare us as much as what the system wants us to be scared about. And so much of cancer, there is no one size shoe fit all. Okay, I want to say that there is no one size because there's so many different types of cancer. But now with technology and the information and the ability we have of hearing case studies from around the globe, there are things being done with cancer in Mexico, for example, that are not allowed in the US for pharmaceutical reasons. But they moved to Mexico to provide treatment that was illegal in the States because Big Pharma didn't want it. And it's all
Right.
holistic. Okay. So I say all this with saying that do your own research and find out, but don't just take the doctor's word for it. They mean well.
Right. So I want to explore that. And I know our time is out, but this is so important. Why shouldn't we just take the doctor's word for it? They're a doctor.
So a doctor has been trained in a system institutionally that is designed by Big Pharma for the most part. So it's sponsored by it, it's endorsed by it, they are all given great amounts of perks and incentives as a result of Big Pharma. And of course, who doesn't want to be successful? And so I am not saying that doctors are malicious, evil people. I think they're one of the most, they can be, and most often are very wonderful people, okay, with good hearts. But the system is rigged in many respects. It's kind of like the way I can put the analogy. I might really like to feed people and have a real heart for hospitality and wanting to help people have a great time. But if I'm feeding them processed foods, they might be having a great time in the moment, but I'm actually giving them something that in the long run is not good for them. So is that true hospitality or is that true kindness? So we have to understand that what we think is good is not always best. What is good in the moment is not always best long term. So one of the reasons that holistic routes are not readily accepted or embraced by the traditional medical route is because the system that they're required to be in is pharmaceutically run. And pharmaceutical companies make money off of selling pharmaceuticals. All of these pharmaceutical brands are derived originally from plants that have then been modified to then become, they can have a patent on it and thereby sell you or sell the doctor the pharmaceutical. Now, you can't patent herbs.
Right.
You can't because they're readily available. Anyone can grow them. But the molecules of plants are more easily absorbed. The way our cells at the mitochondrial level take plants is much more akin to what's normal. And so many, almost all medications are derived from a plant. So if we're taking these medications that have all these synthetics in them, but they're originally derived from plants, why not go straight to the plants? And we're kind of diving into some herbalism here, right?
Yeah. Primary sources,
Yeah.
so important. So,
Yes.
David, we could again talk about this for hours, which I hope to do sometime. As we wrap up this conversation that has had so many
Yeah.
roots and hills and valleys with your own experience with cancer and having been healed from it, how would you like to wrap up this conversation today?
I'd like to wrap it up by saying that you are not alone. You're not alone. And you might not have family even around you. Maybe you're widowed or divorced, or maybe you're not in good relationship with your family, or maybe you don't have that many friends. There are a lot of lonely people out there. You're not alone. Nowadays, you can reach out and get help virtually, on Zoom, online. There are resources. Mind Myself is a resource with practitioners all over the country, all over the world, for that matter, whose primary aim is to help and to serve. I have had numerous relationships formed over the last 4 years. I met on Instagram. I just reached out and I said, "Hey, I'd like to be connected to you." In fact, Esther, I met you through a common friend now
Yes.
on LinkedIn, and she booked a meeting with me. And next thing you know, she introduced me to you, and here we are. You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
believe that you and I will probably be friends for the rest of our lives. I really believe that. And so the
Yes.
thing is what I'm just saying is, if you feel isolated, you feel alone, because cancer can feel that way.
Mhm.
Because everybody else goes on with their life, but your life almost goes on hold for a little bit. And everything's about the cancer. Find help, reach out, take initiative. I'm available as well. If you want to reach out to me, just look up my social media as David Allen Tracy. If I can't help you, I know a lot of people who can. And if they can't help you, they know a lot of people who can. And I think collectively, the idea is to feed, nourish, and sustain your body to heal itself.
Words to live by. Thank you so much for being here, David, and sharing a portion of your story with us and your journey. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And for those of you listening and watching, we do this because you matter. Thank you for being with us today.